Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue. We're going to be talking about Enneagram Type 8s and the story of your life. Or you could say maybe your background story or your childhood story. This comes from the book Deep Living with the Enneagram by Dr. Roxanne Howell Murphy. And I think some of this you'll probably identify with, maybe some of it you won't, but it's all fascinating and very interesting as you learn more about yourself and how you're wired, and what's working for you and what's not working for you. And we're going to talk about vulnerability today. So I hope you stay with this video because it is fantastic stuff. It is so helpful and so good for you and good for anybody that watches this that's trying to relate to an 8 or understand 8ness a little bit better. Just as a reminder, in the description below is a link to my website, tomlahue.com, where I do offer Enneagram coaching and courses about coaching and all kinds of stuff. You might say, what is Enneagram coaching? Well, the reality is sometimes in life we can get like we're feeling like we're stuck, we're maybe at a crossroads, we're not sure what the next level is for us. We don't know what health and balance looks like. We just know we're not satisfied, that we feel like there's something in life that I'm missing or I don't know my purpose. And we talk about all of that stuff. And relationships. Relationships are such a vital, important part of our journey. And, you know, the reality is the relationships are not doing very well most of the time. And sometimes we need help. It's not a sign of weakness to reach out for help. It's a sign that you're wanting to make your life better. And I'm a 7. I want your life to be better. I want you to be happy. I want you to have joy in your life. And I want you to live a life that's rich with meaning and purpose and seize the day every moment. So reach out to me. I'd love to work with you. I have a brand new coaching program called Present to Life. It's a 3-month intensive program from start to finish and guaranteed to get results in your life. So I'd love to work with you. Let's jump into this information today and talk about it. And we're going to talk about vulnerability. And I know that's not something that you like to talk about, but it's got to come up and it's so important. And trust me, if you stay with this video all the way through, you're going to be challenged. You will be. It's such good information. Why do I do this? Because I love it, because I think it's fantastic. So let's jump into what she says here and talk about it. She says, as far back as you can remember, as an 8, you were adventurous, active, and had a lot of energy and went after whatever you wanted, whether it was a toy, whether it was a game, whether it was the rules to the game or what we're going to do, a television show you wanted to watch, and you just go after things with intensity. You have this belief system that says, I want this, so it's up to me to go after it. It's up to me to make it happen. Now, guys, I want you to understand that my wife, Traci, and I, she's a 2-wing 1. I'm a 7-wing 6. We've raised 5 kids, and we've got now 4 grandkids. It's hard to believe we're getting that old. By the way, I got my Superman shirt on. I am not Superman, not the real Superman. But anyway, you know, one of our daughters, our first daughter, Grace, is an 8-wing 7. Okay, the most intense, dynamic person on the Enneagram. So we've raised this. This was our first child. We didn't know the Enneagram. We just knew she was a very strong-willed child. And we had to show up fully, you know, to be conscientious, loving, good parents for her. We didn't do it perfect, but we learned a lot about parenting by being parents. And, you know, I learned a lot about 8s by literally having one of them grow up in my home. And I can remember her mom, a 2-wing 1, very strong 1-wing, used to pull her aside when she was a little kid and say, you can't talk to your friends this way. And because what she would do was that she would start to like orchestrate and give out all these directives and commands to all of her friends. She would invite her friends over, they would begin to play, and then she would just unleash the scenario and say, okay, here's the story. We all have babies. And, you know, the pirates are raiding our village and they're going to take our babies and kill our babies. And so you are going to stand here and you are going to say these things. And then you are going to... And she was like giving out all these commands to all of her friends about what they were going to do, what they were going to play, how they were going to play. And if they weren't doing it right, she would take it out of their hands and move it to the other person. And, you know, mom would pull her aside and say, Grace, come upstairs. Come here, come here. Listen, you can't play with your friends like this. They don't want to play this way. You can't just give orders and commands to everybody and tell them what to do. And she was confused, like she was not understanding, like, what am I doing wrong? I don't understand. She's like, they're not going to want to play with you. Now, a lot of her friends would go along with her directives and commands, but then she would every once in a while have a strong-willed friend over who's like, no, I don't want to play that. And then they would end up in conflict with each other, and mom would have to settle it. What was I doing? I don't know, something else, distracted, probably collecting some nonsense. But anyway, she'd say, you just can't play. Like, nobody's going to want to be your friend. Nobody's going to want to play with you. You have to allow them to make some decisions about how they want to play also. Now look, here it is. It says, you were adventurous, active, had a lot of energy, and went after whatever you wanted as a child. Now you probably feel the opposite. Like, no, I didn't. I told myself no all the time. But other people probably perceived you as a strong-willed child, going toward what you want, moving the dials with the idea that I have the right to start adjusting things. And you might realize, well, doesn't everybody? Yeah, they do, but not everybody does. Okay, you might have played rough with others, got into trouble a lot, heard people saying, stop it. And it's a good chance that as a child 8, you felt small, like you couldn't really protect yourself from all these hurtful experiences. At some early time, you became aware of who actually has the power, and they didn't always use the power appropriately. Sometimes they would use the power against you, to take advantage of you, or to take opportunity against you, and that made you feel very unsafe, and like you had to hide your feelings. And believing that in order to survive in this inhospitable world, you had to show that you were tough. The more chaotic your family life, the tougher you became. This inhospitable world. I think a good example of this, I was watching, I was scrolling through TikTok or Twitter or something, and this video popped up. Maybe you've seen it. It's this video of this Komodo dragon eating a baby goat. And it's disgusting. I don't know why this is even on there, but whatever reason, there's this Komodo dragon, like this giant lizard, right? And he walks up to this little baby goat who's just sitting there minding their own business, meh, meh. And then the Komodo dragon just puts its head in its mouth and then just like begins to swallow this baby goat whole. And before you know it, the goat's gone. Now the goat protests like, and then it's just eaten. It's just gone. And it's like, that's how I imagine an 8 probably sees the world. Like, I tried to be a baby goat. I tried to be vulnerable. I tried to be sweet. I tried to be nice. I tried to be kind. And look what happens to you. The Komodo dragon comes along and chews you up and eats you, and you're a victim. And so you got 2 options in this life. You can either be the baby goat or you can be the dragon. I'm not going to be the baby goat. Why would anybody choose to be the baby goat? I tried that once, and people betray you. People turn against you. People use your vulnerability against you. And I get it, but maybe there's a third option. Maybe you don't have to be the baby goat or the dragon. Maybe there's a third option. Maybe there's something else. And you're like, well, fine, Tom, tell me what it is. Okay, relax. Don't get so excited. Don't get so worked up. We're going to talk about it. Okay. And then you might be surprised, like, why is everybody responding to me like I'm some kind of dragon? Well, you're not going to be the baby goat. There's only 2 options. Okay. When you were young, notice that little line there about the more chaotic your family life, the tougher you became. When you were young, there were times that you showed you were very human, your need for love. But whatever reason, that felt like it was rebuffed, or it was used against you, or it was betrayed, or your needs were rejected, your kindness, your love, your generosity was rejected, or somebody humiliated you and made you feel even smaller. And so you decided, nope, that's not for me. Nope, in this world you got to be tough. You're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. And you probably instill that in others. Like, you think of it as, if I really love someone, not only do I need to protect them, but I need to protect them by helping them be tough, help them be strong. And which is great. I mean, it's great, but there could be a blind spot here. Like, you could have a hard time really showing sincere, open, honest, simple affection to people, kindness, warmth, generosity and affection to people, because you might think that'll make them weak, that'll make them dependent, and you don't want them to be dependent. You love them, so you're going to help them be strong, powerful, and independent. And so I'm not going to do anything or reaffirm anything that's going to allow you to remain weak, soft, vulnerable like that little goat, because this world's filled with dragons. And you may not realize, like, the people around you just need to hear you say that you love them and that you care about them, and that, you know, they need to see that softer side with you. Sometimes. I can remember one time doing an appointment with an 8. Guys, I do a lot of appointments with people, and I did an appointment with a lady who was an 8, and she literally started the appointment, like, it popped up on Zoom, and she was like, all right, Dr. Tom, so I guess I'm an 8 or whatever. So what is this Enneagram? How's it helpful anyway? What is this? Which I think is funny, because I'm like, you made the appointment, like, you're already yelling at me about, you know, prove why this is any value. It's just funny. It's just 8 stuff. I don't get excited. I don't get reactive, because I just think I'm talking to an 8 right now, a challenger. Literally, the name of the type is the challenger, and you come on the video challenging me, like, what is the point of all this? Why is this helpful? What does this even mean? And I started to talk about this kind of stuff. I started to talk about, well, 8s, you know, and I started talking about this, and all of a sudden she just dropped off her screen, like she just disappeared. Her screen went black. She was still on the call, but her screen was off. And I was like, can you still hear me? Because your screen went off. And I could start to hear her sobbing, like she was crying. This was like 10 minutes into the appointment. She was crying because I was getting beneath the surface into this stuff that goes on, you know, beneath the surface. And I just kept on talking, and then eventually her screen popped back on. She was crying. She didn't want me to see her crying. And we talked a little bit more, and about 5-10 minutes later, her screen went off again. And then it would come back on again. And so you got this message as an 8, like, you can't let them see you cry. You can't let them see you as this little baby goat. Or what will they do? They will come up and they will just swallow you. They'll just chew you up and eat you, spit you out. And that's probably true 80% of the time. That's probably true. But there are people in your life that really love and care about you, and they mean the best for you, and they're not going to take advantage of you, and they're not going to betray you. They're not going to intentionally betray you, that need to see you in that softer side. We'll talk more about vulnerability in a minute. Guys, please hold on. Watch out. This video is going to be so helpful for you. I care about you and your relationships. I know I haven't got it all figured out, but I'm working at it. I'm trying to learn, trying to grow, trying to understand for my own benefit and for everybody I interact with for their benefit. And guys, just realize this. Growth always feels like this. Real growth always feels awkward. It does. It doesn't feel comfortable. It's going to push you in a direction that may be uncomfortable for you. I mean, after all, think about it like this. At your best, you look like what? A 2. You look like a 2. I mean, think about, what is a 2? Nice, kind, sweet, gentle, generous, loving, affectionate, warm. At its best, 2s are all about love and vulnerability and kindness and connection. I remember these 2 little characters in the Looney Tunes cartoons. You know, they're 2 little chipmunks that are like too polite, you know, and they're like, no, after you, sir. No, after you. No, indubitably. No, you're the best. No, you are. No, I thank you so much. No, thank you. No, thank you. That's what 2-ness is. And at your best, you look like that? It's probably not how you see things. But see, that's part of the problem, is when we decide we want to grow, we go to the bookstore. I know, what's a bookstore? You download a book on something that just further drives in your natural... We tend to look for books and articles that further propose what we already believe. They just say it better than we do. And so you read something about being strong, being tough, and you're like, yeah, see, that's what I need. I need more of that. Do you really need more of that? I mean, real growth is probably going to challenge you. I mean, try to learn a new language. Doesn't it feel awkward? Try to learn how to play the piano. It feels awkward. Try to learn how to play the guitar. Feels awkward. Learn how to play the drums. Feels awkward. Anytime you really try to step out there and grow, you're going to feel uncomfortable, awkward, and yes, vulnerable. Like people could make fun of you. Real growth makes you feel vulnerable and awkward. And at your best, you look like a 2. Coming toward people, not to destroy them like a dragon, but coming toward them like a baby goat. And that's going to feel icky, sicky, yucky, ooey, gooey, nasty, blah. Stay with me. Please, stay with me. Okay? I know we live in this world where you watch 30-second videos and then you move on to the next one. Please stay with me for this. It's so good. Okay, she says, when you were young, there were times when you showed that you were very human, but you felt rejected, rebuffed, or betrayed. And at an unconscious level, you became determined not to allow yourself to ever feel like that again. Showing your need for love led to pain. So when you allow yourself to be humble and gentle and sweet and compassionate and warm and sensitive and open and all these vulnerable things, it's used against you. So that's it. I'm done. I'm done. You know. Okay, the experience of betrayal felt like a turning point, and you were forced to grow up fast. And I wouldn't just say grow up, I would say like got bigger. Like I'm forced to get bigger fast. Like I think of the Hulk, right? Bruce Banner, probably a 9, minimizing himself, getting along with everybody, trying to make everything okay, controlling his anger. And then what happens? He just has enough, and boom, he goes to 8. He goes to the Hulk. You know, just boom, destroying stuff, breaking things. He's like 4 times his size. He's intimidating, intense, steamrolling. And you may not see yourself in that light. But, I mean, that kind of happened to you. According to this, that kind of happened to you somewhere along in your childhood. Like, I can't be Bruce Banner. I just can't. I tried to be nice. I tried to be understanding. I tried to be sympathetic. And then they come along, make fun of you, use you, manipulate you, take advantage of you. I'm done. And then out comes what? All the swear words. 8's the most likely to swear. Sometimes I'll have people that get on my appointments, you know, and they're like, all right, I don't know what my type is. Maybe an 8, maybe a 1, blah, blah, blah. Beep, 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 beep. All these swear words come out, and I'm like, probably an 8. Not that 1s don't use swear words, because I've been surprised sometimes. But it's kind of the language of 8s, because it's like pushing people back and letting them know, don't mess with me, you know. I used to use swear words when I was 15, 16 years old. You know, it was cool, whatever. I can remember when I stopped. I was working at a grocery store at the time, Publix here in Florida. And one of my good friends, Dan, he walked by while I was talking to somebody else. And I was, you know, F this and F that, blah, blah, blah. And Dan walked by and he just stopped and looked at me. He said, Tommy, I thought you said you were a Christian. I was like, yeah, I am. He's like, man, you don't sound like one. And he just walked away from me. I don't think he was trying to hurt my feelings. I don't think he was trying to, you know, create some big moment for me. But it was a big moment for me. It was a turning moment. I can remember him walking away and just thinking to myself, like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. I need to stop doing this. And I did. I stopped right then. Well, most of the time. Every once in a while, you know. I mean, life's hard. Every once in a while, something's going to come out. But as a pattern in my life, I stopped using swear words then. But, you know, why do 8s do this? Because it kind of pushes people back. It lets them know you're serious. It lets them know not to mess with you. It lets them know. It's like verbal punches, you know. All right. So you've spent a lot of time and energy trying to protect yourself. Well, that's the opposite of being vulnerable. And I know you're probably like, well, okay, make this case for being vulnerable. What does it really get me? What does it really gain me? Why should I even care about this? I will, okay, I will. But first, let's just read a little bit further. You spend a lot of time and energy trying to protect yourself, the opposite being vulnerable, against feeling hurt and denying that you need the approval and affection of others. I don't need anything from anybody. I'm strong, I'm independent, I'm capable. I don't need nothing from nobody, no how, right? Yeah, remember the 2 little chipmunks? No, after you. No, after you. Well, 8s are more like Daffy Duck and Yosemite Sam and the Tasmanian Devil. That's 8 stuff. Okay. I don't need anything from anybody. You lived with the message that you have to be strong and independent. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. That's a good thing. Be strong and independent. And help other people be strong. Help other people become independent. But I think, what are we looking for in life? Balance, 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 right? So if you're hardwired to be strong and independent, then growth for you would be balancing a little bit, and a little bit would be like allowing yourself to admit your weaknesses and you go, ugh, and allowing yourself to see your dependence on others and your interdependence within the group. That's what balance would be. That's what moving a little bit back to center would look like. All right. At your best, you're empowering others, you're encouraging them, but sometimes what you may not see is all of this strength and independence could isolate you away from the very people and relationships that you really want in life. And what do I want? I want you to have the best life possible. I do. You came to organize your life around the idea that it's not okay to be vulnerable. It's not okay to trust other people. And just the very idea of being vulnerable with others brings up discomfort and feels like a sign of weakness, like you're just giving up, you're giving in and letting other people take advantage of you. So I did a little research on vulnerability, because you use that word all the time. You hear it used, you hear it read about, but nobody really stops to like talk about what does vulnerability look like in relationships. Well, the opposite of it would be guarding and protecting yourself. If you, again, in this world of dragons and baby goats, why wouldn't you guard and protect yourself? Well, 80% of the time it's probably fine. But there's always going to be a 20% of the time where guarding and protecting yourself might isolate you from the very things that you really want in life, like loving, caring, committed, nurturing relationships. All right, so here's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that we might mean when we talk about vulnerability. And I think probably 3 of them might be okay, like easy for you. But then there's 4 of them that stand out to me that might be a little challenging for you and could become blind spots and really growth stretches or growth points for you. So let's talk about the 3 that might come easier for you. Number 1, authenticity, being yourself. And really 8s tend to be very authentic people. What you see is what you get. Why would I lie? Why would I not show my true feelings? Why would I not show my true self to you? I got nothing to lose. I don't care if you like me or don't like me. Being your true self rather than trying to conform to other people's expectations. This means expressing your thoughts, feelings, and desires honestly. I think most 8s probably don't have a problem with that. Now, there may be times when you have a problem with this, like when you go to grandma's Christmas party and you really want to tell grandma off, but you don't because you don't want to cause a big scene again. And so you're not really authentic with your feelings. And we all probably appreciate that you're holding back and restraining yourself. But most of the time, I think 8s probably do authenticity very well. Number 2, and I think this is another one that might be easy for you, emotional exposure. Allowing yourself to feel and express the full range of emotions from love and joy, sadness and fear, knowing you may not always be met with understanding and acceptance. And again, I think relatively speaking, probably most 8s are pretty okay with expressing their true emotions. This is how I feel. This is what I think. And then sharing that. Now, except when you feel weak or scared or insecure, you might not be willing to share those emotional, or fear. But generally speaking, I think 8s tend to do this pretty well. Number 3, and this one again, I think 8s do pretty well, is taking risks. Opening up about personal topics and feelings that you've traditionally kept hidden because your fear of judgment, ridicule, or misunderstanding. And so I think as a general rule, 8s tend to be pretty good at taking risks, but you may have a hard time taking a risk of like putting yourself out there and sharing, your feelings or how you got to your position, your reasoning for how you got to your positions. There may be some challenges there, but I think generally speaking, 8s are good at taking risks. Maybe not so much in exposing themselves and their feelings in a relationship. Now, here's the 4 points of vulnerability that I think might be a little more challenging for a typical 8. Okay, number 4, admitting your mistakes and shortcomings. Admitting your mistakes and shortcomings. 8s typically are looking for who's to blame. rather than admitting their own mistakes and shortcomings. Recognizing that no one's perfect and being open about your flaws and mistakes and areas where you feel inadequate. I mean, like, for example, let's say you're a really good leader. I'm going through CliftonStrengthsFinders on my channel right now, and it's fascinating. It really is good. I've kind of never really spent a lot of time looking at strength finders, but let's take a second and let's talk about that for a second. Let's suppose you were to take a CliftonStrengthsFinders test, and actually I think it's called StrengthsFinder test, and let's say you came out really high as, a leader. Like you came out really high as an activator, getting things going, a maximizer, taking strengths and maximizing those. And you came out as of course, a dominant, strong, capable, commanding leader. But then let's say you came out really low. Like your lowest one was something like focus. Like you have a really hard time focusing your attention on what needs to be done next. Or you came out really low in positivity, which is my highest one. Like you tend to be very negative. Like maybe you're an 8-wing 9, the bear, and you tend to be very negative. And you just came out really low in any one of these areas. Could you share that with the team? How does it make you feel to not talk about your strengths, but to talk about your glaring weaknesses and say, man, I took the test and wow, I came out the lowest in strategic. I just found out I'm not a strategic person. I'm very reactive, and I just move forward, and I don't really sit and try to strategize what is the best strategy. And I blow it there, man. That's really one of my low areas. Can you talk about your weaknesses? Can you talk about where you scored the lowest? Okay. All right. So admitting your mistakes or shortcomings. Number next, I think it's 5. Okay. Trusting others. Trusting others. I think this is where 8s and 6s might really agree. Like you can't trust people. No, people are not trustworthy until they prove themselves to be trustworthy. And then it's so ironic. Look at 7s and 9s, right next to you, in between you, who are like, oh yeah, trust everybody. Everybody's your friend. Yeah, of course. Until they prove themselves that they're not trustworthy. And even then, I'll try to see it from their perspective. I'll try to give them the benefit of the doubt. But 6 and 8 are like, no, don't trust people until they prove themselves to be reliable, until they prove themselves to be trustworthy. Believing that people you're vulnerable with will treat your disclosures with respect and care. This requires building trust over time. So trusting people could be challenging. And for good reason. I mean, there are dragons out there. But realize like 90%, 98% of the people that you meet are not dragons. 98% of the people you meet are well-intentioned, people who are just trying to go about their lives and, mean you no harm. There are predators out there, and all of us need to have our radar up to see these people for what they are. But now I was reading a book by Dr. Phil the other day called LifeCoach, and Dr. Phil is an 8. And the whole first third of the book is him going through all the people out there that want to screw you over. And he just goes through one after another. This person, they want to destroy you. This person, they're going to gossip and lie about you. This person's going to try to steal and take advantage of you. This person, and he gives them all a name. And I get it. He's not wrong. It's just, man, that is a very dark, negative way. I'm a 7. It's a very dark, negative way to see the world. Like, okay, here's the dragons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I get it. It's very helpful. I need to think more like that. I need to stretch into that and grow into that 8-wing. But just realize, like, you may label people as dragons who are really not dragons at all. Who may actually love you, care about you, and want the best for you. Okay, so let's see the next one. Seeking support. Reaching out for help and support when you need it rather than trying to handle everything on your own. Are you able to do this? Are you able to seek support? Can you enlist others around you as a team? At your best, you're leading the team. But there's sometimes when you just need to be on the team. When you just need to say, hey, man, I need your help. I need to run something past you. This is what I'm thinking. I'm not sure if this is going to work. What do you think? And collaborate with other people and trust them Open up to them, share your weaknesses, and they're going to help you. And probably they're going to be surprised that you're doing this. They're going to say, man, this person's really trusting me because they don't do this all the time. And they'll see it like, what an opportunity I have to connect with you and to come alongside of you and offer wisdom and support and guidance. And this opens you up. You know, you don't have to always be the person helping in order to have a relationship with somebody. Sometimes you have to be the person who's willing to ask for help. If you like the Bible, I mean, Jesus did this all the time. Although he's the one that could help everybody, there's many times where he put himself in that one down position and said, can you give me a drink? Can you give me something to eat? Can I stay in your house? Where Jesus took the role of, can you help me? Because he didn't really care how we initiate this contact. It was just make sure that we make this connection. And sometimes he's helping others, but other times he's asking for their help and support, for their assistance, and then he's able to then help them. And the last one is listening actively. Taking time to slow down your responses, slow down your thinking in order to fully hear and understand another person's perspective before you start fighting back with them or debating them or arguing with them or challenging them. To really slow down and make sure you're understanding another person's perspective, which is something nines just tend to do naturally and something that you could lean into that 9 wing a little bit to help you with. All right, so let's wrap this up. Let's see what she says here. What you didn't see in yourself was that the amazing strength that you have in your heart. What you couldn't see is that you will always be a person of strength, even when your heart is open. That's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. Like, to see yourself as, I'm not being weak because I'm opening. That's the opposite of guarded. Because I'm opening, that's going to make you vulnerable. Once you let that drawbridge door down, right, your fort is now vulnerable. But what do you want? Don't you want the drawbridge door down so that you can interact and relate with the people in your life that love you and care about you? But you may, if you're not careful, like an 8 under stress looks like a 5, become a castle and a fortress where nobody gets in. Nobody's going to hurt me again. Nobody's going to betray me. I'm selling the house. I'm moving to Arizona. I'm going to live in the desert among the horses, and I don't care about people anymore. I don't think that's your best life. I don't think it's your best move. I think sometimes you show real strength by opening yourself up and allowing yourself to fully experience life and relationships. And yeah, you're going to get hurt sometimes, but that's part of real relationships. You're strong, you're capable, you can handle this. You don't need to work on getting stronger. That's not the area that you need to grow in. You might need to work on humbling yourself, opening yourself up to others, allowing yourself to really care and express that care and concern, to fully demonstrate compassion, kindness, slowing down to really be present with and listen to the people around you. Think of it like this. Okay, this is the most simple way I can explain it. Think about it like sometimes you need to lean into that 9 of, I don't need to say anything. I don't need to do anything. This isn't any big problem I need to fight. This isn't a big challenge. I need to just let this go. I need to just withdraw in a kind, thoughtful, peaceful way. And if you don't withdraw in that way, you'll probably withdraw in that 5 way of just being detached, cold, calloused, removed, greedy, stingy. Or think of it as, I need to lean into that 7 wing. I need to get more positive. I need to get more proactive. I need to start thinking up new ideas and new solutions. You know, rather than just barking and yelling and giving commands at people from the couch, I need to get up and plan and organize and move people toward a positive interaction, toward a positive direction. Don't just yell at the kids because they're being loud in the house, right? Decide that you're going to entertain them. You're going to take them to the museum. You're going to take them to do things with them and give yourself to them. At your best, you look like a 2. That's all I need to say. All right, guys, I hope this is helpful. I know it is. I hope it's challenging. I hope it's encouraging. I hope it makes you think about yourself maybe in a little bit different way than you typically would. And if you want to reach out, let's work together. Let's work together. I'd love to. All right, you don't scare me. You don't scare me. I ain't scared. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye. I love you, and be present to life.